Welcome to Business Insights Daily. I'm your host, Seshank. Today, we're looking at a bold and deeply controversial experiment in internet governance. Australia has become the first country in the world to prohibit social media access for children under 16 with a sweeping new law that officially took effect on December 10th. Rules are simple to describe and extremely hard to implement. If you're under 16, you're not supposed to be on any major social platform at all. Companies like TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and others must block underage users or face heavy penalties. And almost immediately, downloads of less well-known apps like Lemonade, Yope, and Coversuck spiked as young users began looking for ways around the world. Let's break down what this ban actually does, why Australia is doing it, and how tech companies and free speech advocacies are reacting, and what this might signal for the future of social media regulation around the world. What the law actually says. Australia's under 16 social media prohibition is in many ways the most aggressive move any major democracy has made to limit kids' use of social platforms. At a high level, the law bans access to designated social media platforms for anyone under 16, not just signups, but principal existing users as well. It requires platforms to verify users' age using robust measures, things like ID checks, third-party age verification services, or AI-based age estimations, rather than just asking people to type in a birth date. This imposes significant fines, potentially in the tens of millions of dollars for platforms that knowingly or negligently allow under 16 users to maintain accounts. The initial list of covered platforms include the usual suspects: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, X, and other mainstream social networks. Messaging first services and professional networks are being treated somewhat differently. The core idea is clear: algorithmic, feed based social environments are off limits to children. At the same time, the law leaves room for regulators to update the list over time, adding new apps as they grow popular among younger users. What leads to the next twist? Alternative apps. The alternative app surge. Almost as soon as the ban took effect, the App Store data showed a spike in downloads for platforms not yet covered by the restrictions. Names like Lemonade, Yoke, and Coverstar, apps centered on video performance and interactive challenges, or hybrids of Instagram and Pinterest, started spiking. These apps are suddenly climbed the charts in Australia, not because adults want them, but because teens see them as a way to stay social but tripping the enforcement wires on major platforms. It's a pattern we've seen before. When certain categories of content get banned, alternative sites spring up overnight. When one messaging app gets blocked, users flood to the next. Here, the question is, can regulators realistically keep up with a fast moving ecosystem, especially when new apps can appear and go viral much faster than laws can be updated? And for the companies behind these alternative apps, there's a deeper question. Do they want to become the next big teen platform, knowing that might paint a regulatory target on their back? Why Australia is doing this? What's driving such a dramatic step? Australia's policymakers frame the ban as a child safety and mental health measure. Over the last few years, studies have linked heavy social media usage to increased rates of anxiety, depression, and body image issues among teenagers. Parents and educators have expressed growing concerns about cyberbullying, exposure to harmful content, and addictive design patterns. And multiple inquiries, both in Australia and abroad, have criticized platforms for not doing enough to protect young users. In the context, previous approaches like kids mode, content filters, and time limits are seen as insufficient. Australia's government is essentially saying, we've asked platforms to make their products safer. We've nudged and we want, and we watch the numbers get worse. So now we're taking a harder line. If you're under 16, you shouldn't be here at all. For public health perspective, it's a bold attempt to treat social media more like alcohol, gambling, or other activities where age limits are standard. But from civil liberties and tech policy perspective, it raises a huge question. The pushback from tech and free speech advocates. Unsurprisingly, the reaction from major platforms and digital rights groups have been critical. Tech companies argue that age verification at scale is technically and socially flawed. To be effective often requires collecting sensitive data, ID documents, biometric signals, and other attributes, which might actually create new privacy and security risks. Determined teens can often circumvent blocks using VPNs, parent credentials, or offshore apps, meaning compliant users are punished while the savviest found workarounds. And a hard ban may reduce young people's access to beneficial communities, educational content, and support networks, especially for those who feel isolated offline. Free speech and youth right advocates add that a blanket prohibition risks treating all online speech as potentially harmful rather than targeting specific types of content or behavior. And that sets a precedent for governments to decide which groups can participate in digital public spaces. Some critics argue alternatives, strong design restrictions, for example, limiting algorithmic read and infinite scrolls for underwriting, more granular parenting tools, and transparency requirements, as well as mandatory risk assessment and independent audits of how platforms impact child well-being. Australia's government, on the other hand, insists the ban is proportionate to the scale of harm and will be reviewed over time as data comes in. But that leads to one of the most important and hardest questions. How will we know if it works? For the last 15 years, the most big social platform was designed as one product for everyone, with some age gate friction at the front door. Kids could join, often by lying about their age, and the system treated them mostly like adults, with a few filters bolted on. Australia's law is a blunt instrument saying, no, kids are fundamentally different users with different needs, and we're going to draw a hard line. Whether or not you agree with that approach, it forces everyone into the ecosystem founders, investors, regulators, and parents to confront a set of design codes. If you are building social media from scratch, knowing what we know now, would you design a single product for 13-year-olds and 45-year-olds? Should there be a dedicated, tightly curated social space for minors? Are different incentive structures and fewer engagement traps? And if so, who builds those spaces? And how do they sustain them without defaulting to ad driven engagement maxing models? Australia is answering these questions in the simplest way it can. For now, no access under 16 on mainstream platforms. Most of the world is watching to see do mental health outcomes improve? Do kids just move on to the next set of apps? Or do parents feel more in control and more shut out from their children's digital lives? These answers won't come overnight. They'll be messy and they'll be differ by community. They'll shape how other countries in the EU, the US, parts of Asia think about regulating kids' online experiences. As with so many stories we cover, this isn't just about one law in one country. It's about how we collectively are trying to rebuild an internet that grew faster than our rules did. This is Business Insights Daily. I'm your host Seshank. Thank you for listening. And whether you're a parent, a builder, a policymaker, this might be a good moment to ask. If we're going to limit what kids can do online, what are we building for them instead? Thank you.